Before you come at me with your pitchforks and fire, hear me out. The title is true, but it's not in the sense that you think. Sharks are in fact not these hyper-aggressive animals that seek out humans like what the movies depict. But I've seen a few videos that show people getting a bit too comfortable around wild sharks because they hear the term sea puppy. And this kind of mindset can end terribly for both the human and the animal. Along with the whole sea puppy trope, I'm going to be discussing some animal myths and sayings a fair amount of people still believe to this day that can get them killed. Whether it's ignorance or just a lack of knowledge, their actions can lead to some of these animals being put down because they didn't read science or didn't use common sense. I still feel most of you have your pitchforks up because of the title, so I'll get into that first before someone actually puts out a hit on me. Ever since the movie Jaws came out, a wave of fear has spread like never before. No other animal has ever been as feared as the shark. Countless movies of them going out of their way to tear people apart even if it hurts them in the process. And you know what's the craziest part? These guys kill less people than most animals that have the capability of ending us, apart from the few cetaceans. Between 7 and 11 people die every year from a shark attack. You have a higher chance of a tree randomly falling on you when you're in a forest. There are around 100 sharks attack every year, with 47 being unprovoked. Now put that into perspective as some others like the crocodiles. Some crocodiles on their own have human body counts in the hundreds, and it's not too uncommon to find a few with more than a dozen human lives under their belt. But this is mostly in rural areas where people use the water sources like rivers for most of their daily lives. Cooking, washing clothes, even getting food. And the crocs just take the opportunity. The crocs themselves aren't just violent killing machines, but they are more prone to turn you into a snack compared to a shark. In contrast, we kill almost 100 million of them every year, which has drastically set back their population. Thankfully, it's somewhat shortened due to awareness and education, however, it's still a problem. Especially around Asia where the regulations are too strict, or some places don't even have them. You can just catch as many sharks as you want. Thankfully, their numbers have skyrocketed in some places, such as Florida and parts of Australia. Their population has grown so much that you can now catch them for food under certain conditions. So I'm sure you've seen all of those videos with people swimming with sharks, most of which are nurse and lemon sharks. However, there are some more brave individuals that actively swim and interact with the big three, which include the bull, tiger and great white. Tiger sharks are the most popular ones you see people swim and interact with. Divers are often seen holding them in place sometimes and even flipping them over by rubbing their snout, which contain pores called ampullae of Lorenzini, and this causes tonic immobility. But these people for the most part are professionals or have had years of experience working with the animals. With that knowledge, a few have swam side by side with the largest of great whites that could one-shot them. Because of these cute videos, people often call them sea puppies, and I too am guilty of that, but the reality is, they aren't. Most of those interactions you see online are places with heavy tourism, and most sharks know not to attack the divers or the tourists because they give them food. Some are able to recognize a specific person and follow them around, which I guess is kinda puppy-like. But as with every group, some people take this too far. Because of this statement, there are people getting attacked for it. I was scrolling on Instagram and saw a guy pulling on a shark's tail in the water and it spun around and bit him on the chest. I couldn't make out what it was, either a lemon or a bull shark. Then there are cases of people getting bitten by nurse sharks, which are probably the most docile species. And what causes these bites, you may ask? People being too relaxed. A lot of folks try to hand feed them, others try petting them for whatever reason, and then there are the few dummies who try to hold the shark in place. These are not pets. Even the ones in tourist heavy beaches do have to hunt for most of their food and are capable of causing damage to humans when provoked. Some of the professionals even have to watch themselves. There's this video of a woman about to dive into the water, but she quickly pulls out because a massive tiger shark pulls up. Most of these aren't predatory, however, it's just a way of them figuring out what something is. We have hands to feel and investigate, but all they have is their mouths. That's why you see a lot of videos with them briefly biting the camera and then swimming away. Sometimes they do in fact do this with humans, but when they figure out we're not food, they go on their way. But this becomes a problem when we're talking about the biggest sharks. Even an exploratory bite from a tiger or great white can be fatal. Both of these animals can weigh over 1,000 pounds, with great whites sometimes approaching 2 tons. However, some of these interactions aren't as innocent. While it usually doesn't happen, some amounts of unprovoked attacks are food driven. Mostly it's spear fishermen who cause something and the sharks detect the splashing of the fish and they come after the diver. But there's one statement that's actually getting some backlash, and that's the mistaken identity trope. A lot of times it is in fact mistaken identity because we do look like certain prey items like seals or turtles, especially when on surfboards, but there's no denying some of these are deliberate. I like to think it's out of desperation, but a few sharks, mainly bull and tiger sharks, do on occasion attack people for food, knowing it's a human. There is a video of a great white actively circling a guy and eventually darting towards him. This was not a curious shark, the interaction was predatory. The poor chap thankfully did have something to use as a barrier between him and the shark for a while though. I understand why the statement is often used because they don't want any more bad raps coming upon these animals, and while they mean well, it sometimes can have a negative effect and cause persons to drop their guard in the presence of a shark because they think it will just swim past. which would happen most of the time, but there are some times where the animal will just see this as an opportunity. And again, even with the less dangerous species, people can provoke the animals and cause them to defend themselves. And when this happens, the nearest news station will say shark attacks person, not knowing the idiot was getting too close to the animal. We are in fact a terrible food source of most of the bigger predatory sharks because we don't have enough calories or fat as the other main prey items, but if desperate enough, some will take the chance. I mean, if it was you, would you choose dying over eating something you didn't like? Thankfully, like 90% of these interactions can be dismissed by just redirecting the shark if it's slowly moving in, or if you have an object with you, just setting up a barrier until it goes away. How does this relate to the sea puppy thing? Well, as I've said, people see videos of others petting sharks and even swimming directly beside them, and they think they can do the same. And for those of you saying who the hell is going to go and hold on to a shark, you'd be surprised. People have done much more stupid and crazy things because they saw someone do it on the internet. I want to make this clear though, I really cannot stress this enough. Sharks are in no way as dangerous as in the movies and are much less likely to attack compared to other apex predators. I mean, some of these things can in fact be given small pets here and there. But with that said, they are not tamed. These are wild animals that just tolerate us, especially the one in tourist beaches. We give them food and they don't bite. But there's always that one individual who thinks they're the main character and tries to scratch the shark under the chin or sometimes hold it up, which causes the animal to retaliate. When I eventually go and interact with them myself, I might try to just briefly touch the tail, but that's it. As a matter of fact, I don't think I'll even do that. They are not water puppies you can just grab or swim in front of. If they feel threatened or agitated, they will attack. So no matter how adorable some of these guys can be, don't be so naive as to think you can get away trying to control them. The next most common thing people seem to do is underestimate herbivores. This has got to be the most stupid and popular way you see someone die on the internet. I find it so hard to believe people really think it's a Disney movie and if they walk up to a door with a baby, it's going to do nothing. I will give credit where credit is due because some herbivores like hippos and bulls are some of the most feared herbivores, but they actively look as though they want your soul. One has teeth as long as your arm and the other wants any person it sees dead. Although some bulls can be good boys. I fed one when I was smaller actually, but let's be honest. How many of you have seen a video where a person approaches an ungulate or any other herbivore and just gets annihilated for it? As a matter of fact, I want all of you guys to leave in the comments the most idiotic way a person has approached a wild animal as though it's docile. For me, it will always be that guy who went straight up to a bison for a closer look. You see a ton of muscle and horn and decide to go for a closer look? Isn't there like a zoom on your camera? Use that. The one with the moose was even more stupid. At that point, it's natural selection. Here's a video of these guys taunting a moose and the guy behind the camera had the same reaction as me when they got attacked.
See what the happens.
See how long that leg will go.
Get the away from the moose.
You're wishing it would hit me right now.
Yeah, I am.
Me and Poppy might hit both of you guys, no problem.
A little closer.
If the moose don't.
A little closer.
Go on.
You guys are fucking idiots.
Don't touch it. No, touch your foot.
Get him!
Yeah, get him!
Yes.
Get him!
I love all, well, most animals. Mosquitoes and ticks can be exterminated for all I care. But moose and horses give me a bad vibe. I will fight any equestrian, I do not care. But there's something behind those eyes that we can't see. I now fear horses for biting more than kicks. I remember walking down the street as a 9-year-old and I walked past a horse. There was like 10 feet of space between us and the thing still ran up and tried to bite me. Needless to say, I became the Flash that day. And I've never been able to run that fast again. But for horses, you can make the excuse that they're domesticated. For these things, there's no excuse. In my opinion, they look more terrifying than a lion or a tiger, especially when their pupils dilate and they start grinding their teeth. Yet so many people try to pet them. There's this dude who tried to go up to a moose and pet it and immediately dropped like a ball when it nearly stomped him out. And this lady who decided to disturb another one by attempting to scratch it while it was sitting. They just ignore all signs, the ears suddenly going back, the eyes becoming enveloped in white, or the tread display the animal makes meaning it doesn't want them there. But it's not just them. Many herbivores including deer, hogs, wild goats, tapirs, the list goes on and on. They think because their main diet is plant matter, it's okay to approach them. Predators will kill for food most of the time, but these guys will kill you because you're in the territory. Like you would get a relatively quick death with a big cat, but something like a rhino or a big deer would trample you and leave you there until you're no longer a threat. And if they don't squish your head, expect a couple of minutes for you to pass away as you bleed from every hole in your body. Some dumb parents even make their kids take part in the foolishness. Like this lady who let their child approach a doe that likely had a fawn nearby and they just stomped out the kid. Do you really think this is Bambi? If you're a predator they think they can eliminate, they will do it. The same with most herbivores. In their everyday lives they are faced with predation from natural predators, so even though you're thinking it's friend-shaped and wants hugs, it thinks you're about to turn it into dinner, so the animal will attack in self-defense if it knows it can't escape. But as the same with sharks, this isn't to villainize these animals. As both groups are needed for their own respective ecosystems, the entire ocean would fall apart, and the results would affect us if sharks didn't exist. This video is just meant to say, don't be an idiot. Be respectful to each animal and give them their space. If you're with a professional tour guide and they say it's okay to get a little closer because that specific animal has steady interactions with people, fine. But don't do something stupid for a few social media views. Because when the animal retaliates, it's not just the person's life in danger, but the animal as well. Since persons will now think it just attacks random people, when in reality it just felt threatened. But that's just about it for this one, guys. A very big deviation from my normal content, but that video of the dude pulling the shark and getting bitten made me want to talk about it. So don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.